Hello. Okay. So today I'm going to follow up the video we did the last video I did, which was all about looking at healing. Okay. And really, I'm working towards a situation where I can talk to you about healing habits. And so I have always thought about how do I hit all the health targets that we hear about, all the ones that you're getting from doctors and medicine and other places. How do I deliver on that in a normal daily life? Because what I saw, but this is the study of my life. This is what I've been focusing on. It's why I made the choice I did in terms of work and whatever. So it's an obsession of mine. But you see, the thing is, it is an investment in you, because if you do this, then you're going to get to the end of your life really, really fit and healthy. And that's a nice way to live. And then that means during your life, you're going to have this comfortable, nice time living. You won't be full of all the pains and all the problems everyone else gets. And the beauty is, that's where I am right now. Because I'm old, you can see with his white beard and everything and all the white hairs and all this kind of stuff. I'm in the Middle Ages. It used to be Middle Ages. I don't mean Britain, I'm not in the 1500s. No, I mean, I'm mid-40s, okay? So I've got plenty of motorway miles on me. And what I mean by that is that I've had all sorts of challenges, but most people have. I've had some incredible challenges in my life, but most people have. But they've also taught me a lot. And so what I've used is all those challenges as a way to grow. And it does not feel like it at the time. And lots of you will have been through all sorts of challenges. It does not feel like it. But once you pass them, you realize that was actually a gift. You just have to treat it that way. That's a whole philosophy thing, isn't it? But the point here is, what are the recommendations that you need for good health and a good life? Why are they there? Where do they come from? Now, that's a massive thing that I'm not prepared for in this video, because I've got so many things I want to do in so little time. So I thought, well, there's actually my entire site's about that. Everything I've been studying for decades is that. So it's a lot to take in. So I want to do better videos. And so I need your comments, I need your feedback. You tell me what you're working on, what I can work on, what I can improve on, but also write in the comments, what are you struggling with right now? Because I find that you are not the first person to have gone through any challenge there is. Even now that we're going into space, it's still not the first challenge, which will sound weird, but humans are used to going into very, very difficult situations that they haven't been through before, their tribe hasn't been through before, or maybe the whole of humanity hasn't been through before. It isn't the first time we've done that, but we always find a way to get through. So that helps me. I say that because it helps me. And how I hit the health chart targets is a lot by understanding how we work as human beings. It's one thing. The healing principles I mentioned in the last video, which is very much about managing 3 principles, okay? But I come from having looked at so much research. I mean, decades I've been looking at this, but I know it from early on, the first, say, 10 years of really studying. It became obvious that there are 3 principles, which are essentially for healing, which is supply, demand, and regulate. I know that's ruined my next video. No, my previous video. No, it hasn't. Because it's about the principles. Do them. But they're generic, partly because, well, you can apply them to any situation, any problem. That's why I put it that way. To understand what I mean by that, that's why you watch the video. Now here, I'll get into, well, where do the health problems come from? This is an example of the kind of stuff I read. This is what got me into it, okay? Now, it looks backwards to me. It should look fine to you. But I'll just show you the books. This is a copy, and I forget the age. No, this one was done in, I believe, 1992. And I had to, you have to pay for these. So this is an old one. It was printed in 2000 or something like that. But I'll go and check that. I remember this being 1992, 1995 or something like that. Now, what it is that most modern, or all modern countries do look at their demographics and the statistics of health. And this particular one was the UK version, obviously sponsored by LA Dunbar. Now, the detail in there was profound, and I knew the detail when I was younger. However, I didn't know that actually you used to have to pay for it. I didn't know all that kind of stuff. So I managed to get a copy, I think, at the time. And then since then, they're like £100 or something like that. And the thing is, what they're doing is that's when they realised they could show in here. I'll just go through some of the stats, but it was basically average people, say my age, couldn't even go up the slightest hill. That's important to understand. This is in the 90s. So they did the study for a year or two, and then they reported it. So this is important to understand how long these things take. So it was at the edge of the 90s that they were doing this actual study, and then they put the report out, and that leads into what the plans are for the country. Because America do their own stats, France do their own. You'll find each country has its own way of going about it, and it's so important to appreciate the detail in those kind of things, which is why you'll get confused in some areas, because each country will do it their own way because of their own history. But also this stuff has to filter through, because you'll find a lot of the doctors won't be aware of this study. That's what's amazing. They actually, it's noticeable. At the time, I couldn't believe it. But now I've seen it time again. People have no idea this even exists. Yet this was each year. Every few years, they'll have a major review of health, and then they have more recent ones. And they created the nice, I think it's a framework in the UK that is, oh, I forget the acronym, what it means. But basically, health and wellness is moving along, but it moves along at slow pace, really slow pace. So I say that because then you can appreciate why I'll get frustrated, because I can see what the problem is and how to fix it. But I don't have the white coat, the doctor background, and all this kind of stuff. No, I went different routes, because while everybody was zigging, I was zagging. I went other routes, which is why I can see things no one can. So it's not being better. It's about seeing the holes in what the knowledge is out there. So how do I hit all the health targets? That's why all my videos, so I haven't finished the series because producing the videos was hard. But I'm getting faster at them now. Get them out very quickly. And it was about, the idea was, if you go on holiday, if you do something you love and combine health with that, then you'll do it. Because people don't actually struggle to do the things that are good for them if they have all the free time and whatever in the world. But people don't have the free time and the money and the interest, okay? People have other things on their minds. So you've got to make it really easy for the people to do the things that are right for them. That is the most obvious thing in the world, isn't it? Because we aren't doing these things. So our entire lives and our societies are not set up for health. They weren't before. Thousands of years ago, people were dying all over the place. It was like terrible. But now we have such good communicable disease. So that's the infectious disease. Okay. I'm getting technical because I reviewed this just this Christmas, 2020. It's now 2026, the 25 Christmas. Kind of take the 2 weeks off them from doing all this kind of stuff, just to really just review and just see where am I, because I feel I have enough ability to express things now that I can actually just say, well, okay, I was reviewing. Is everything I'm saying about on point? And it is. And naturally, it's only because I've been following really good people. Okay. So I'll actually show you the kind of stuff that I follow. This is, again, an older book, but the stuff doesn't change. This by Claude Bouchard, Stephen Blair. These are names I see. I have lots of books by these guys. There's lots of other ones. This is an American version. I have British versions of the same kind of concept, because when I was at uni, I had people telling me how this works. So I don't need to know. I'm just getting these so that I can show these things. And also I wanted to just get up to date now. These cost new. The latest one would be over 100, 150 pounds for a lot of these things. So these are like £4 when I get them when they're older. That's the logic. I don't have the money. Point being is, you probably don't have the money all the time. If you've got the money, you don't have the time. If you have the time, probably don't have the money. That's normally the other way it works. But most people don't have the knowledge. They had no idea. I've got other books that will say, if you move, it improves your bones. Yeah? When you study the way I have, it's obvious. If you move, you strengthen your heart. That's what you need to do. You can't feed your heart. That makes it worse. You need to actually move and put a challenge on it and strengthen it. Now, these things are basics once you've studied it. They're literally like writing an A and a B and a C. They're really basic things that don't change. Because once you've learned how a human works, you don't kind of have to relearn it if I'm suddenly a frog. No. I mean, it sounds silly, but that's the truth. Humans have been working the same way for millions of years. Because we're made of cells, and cells have worked the same way for billions of years. Now, I've got a book up there that's microbiology of the cell. This is the kind of stuff that I'm interested in because, well, I'm just a biologist. And I'm making sure I get the wider knowledge about physics and chemistry because I understood that, but I didn't go into the major depth of that. So I'm just expanding my knowledge. But what it means for you, because you're most likely to be a normal person who doesn't look at this stuff all day. Well, I established some of those books just to say, well, there's a lot of reasons behind what I do. But the picture behind me, for example, is from a beautiful video picture I took this summer when I'd heard about these things where you could go and see seals, and I'd seen them in Norfolk, and there's an RS, no, it's not RSPB, it's one of those nature places that you go and you get on a boat and they take you out and you see the seals. And it was awesome. And I heard that this place, Horsey Gap, they were actually on the beach, and it turns out they were. And the thing is, that's hunting and gathering, and it's tying us back to our own humanity. So what I've said there is that, how do you get all this stuff done? Well, that's me. Those books are establishing, hopefully very quickly, that there's a reason that every single stat that we have now is about really saying that now we are so wealthy in the West that we don't have these problems of infectious diseases anymore. I know they're there and they're still lingering, but we're actually able to fix them through medicine. Okay. And viral disease, because before there were antibiotics that would work with cholera and any microbial, but we had nothing for viruses. And what people don't realize about COVID is it's given us a reason to go past the law, because the law prevented us doing viral vaccines. So because of COVID, it forced people to change the law, because China went and fixed it through viral. They don't have the same law. And America were a bit honest. There's lots of stuff going on in the background you wouldn't know. But I knew this. So I helped guide my family through, particularly my wife. Everyone was scared. I was nowhere near as scared as everyone else, because I knew what I was talking about, because I followed all these people. So everyone else gets confused. And it's like, no, there's a very specific set of reasons why they didn't do things and whatever. And now they're doing it all because, well, they've got a viral vaccine, which is why they're now getting vaccines for AIDS, which they never had before. They're working towards them. But they've been doing this for a long time, so a lot of people didn't realise the reason they got it quickly is because actually they've been working on this for decades, just like the genome, just like other things. So the tools that came from that meant that they could bring a vaccine quickly, but they weren't able to test it as fast as much as they could. That is true. Anyway, that's just a wider concept thing. So right now, the major issue is non-communicable diseases, which is a boring title. What it means is stuff that goes wrong because your life isn't right. The lifestyle you're living is causing the problems. That's actually what I was studying. And that's why I didn't become a doctor, because I knew that what I saw was, if you live the right lifestyle, then you won't need a doctor. You still need a doctor to go and check and stuff like that. What I mean is, do everything you can to avoid needing the doctor. Because you shouldn't need it if you live the right way. That's the idea. And it's easier to understand in the same way is, if you treat your car right, yeah, and you get a good car that doesn't have any major flaws, and you just treat it right, then it's going to last you for ages. And you pop in every so often to the car doctor, which means you go and do the yearly test, whatever you do in your country. We get an MOT where we are in the UK, and you won't get the service done. Yeah, you take it to the car doctor, and then it's fine, and it should go for as many miles as it should do, and it'll be brilliant. If you really take care of it, it'll go for even more. That kind of thing. That's obvious, isn't it? Well, humans are exactly the same. Because what I've been thinking is, how do I express it to people? Well, if you think about it, your ancestors, right? They didn't have doctors. They had witch doctors, but you know what I mean? Witch doctors, yeah. They knew some stuff. There was a lot, actually, that you'll find in past medical people through the world actually knew quite a lot, and we don't show enough respect to that. So that's absolutely true. But I'm scientific about these things. So some things were brilliant, some things were not. Yeah. However, they weren't able to instantly cure cholera and things like this. So, well, where am I going with this again? Sorry. Yeah, it was about prevent people needing to go to the doctor. Why? And it was about saying, in the past, your ancestors didn't have hospitals to go to. If your wife was giving birth, or of course, if you are the wife giving birth, that was a scary time. Whereas now you've got all sorts of resource. And, we had a whole group of families when we had our firstborn. They all had their firstborn. Everyone got through it. No baby was lost, no mum was lost. It's wonderful. Because once you know the past, you go, no. There was all sorts of challenging births. We had one. We had C-section twice, with each kid. But, oh my God, to do that, because I'm interested in it, you can imagine, I've watched some surgeries, to kind of just get into that. And because I would have been, if I'd have gone into doctoring, I might have ended up as a surgeon. I might have ended up in all sorts of places. But I chose to notice that the biggest problem was actually the lifestyles we live. And if I get the lifestyle right and share that, then I could stop people needing a doctor, which would reduce the pressure on doctors and the resources that have been taken on people on lifestyle, which can be fixed. I want doctors to be able to focus on people that really need the help, not people who could just live differently and not even need a doctor. That's actually it. And I've spent quite a bit saying that. But people don't even realize that humans are so well built. And it's only there's a reason that I reordered my life, because I noticed, given what I studied, that Dunbar study particularly sent me on, it clarified things I was learning at the time, which is humans can happily live till their 90th year and beyond. If literally, like I say, you take care of yourself the way you take care of a car. I don't mean drink lots of petrol. I'm going to be silly because no, obviously I don't mean that. I mean, you treat a car as a car. It shouldn't sit on your parking lot, on your driveway forever. No, it should be used, because it's very easy to say, if a car hasn't moved for the last year at all, I don't care how much petrol you put in it. I don't care how you charge the battery. If it hasn't moved, I don't want the car. That's easy to say. If you don't understand what I mean, not a problem. There are other analogies, or ask someone else about what that would mean. But basically, I'm not a mechanic and I don't want to have to fix it. I just want to drive a car. So you know that a car is designed to move. However, a house, if it's just sat in the same place, that's not a problem. So if a house has been moved, I'm like, I don't really want to live in that, because a house shouldn't move. So it's the same way in that trees and plants and things shouldn't move. If they do, they're probably dead. They're probably hurt by that, by the movement, because you can move a tree, but it's a big operation and things like that. Whereas animals are supposed to move. And once you kind of think about it and you realize, yeah, a car should move. And I say that because we made cars, humans made cars. Therefore, you can find lots of people who know cars really, really well. And they'll agree, they'll make the point is, there are gases and liquids and stuff that are in cars. And if they're just sitting around, then they settle and they cause all sorts of problems by settling. And the weather will affect the car. Whereas if it was constantly being driven, then actually they're designed for that. Therefore, they're happy. Now, that's for mechanics, that's for all those experts. But the point is, lots of people, we all do, who really know this stuff. Because I work in tech and I work on computers. I know the same kind of things with computers. And I know with the computer, you can leave it for a year and come back and it'll be perfectly fine. And that's fundamentally different. That makes them fundamentally different to cars. It's why I have an EV now, actually, because you don't have some of the gas problems. Whereas humans are built to have we're hybrids. We are electrical systems as well as being biological, so gas-based systems and water-based systems. We get our energy from all these different things. So you see, I'm going into quite a lot of detail, isn't it? But hopefully I'm putting it in a way that isn't too detailed. But I could go very, very detailed, extremely, if I wanted to. At the gym, no one cares about any of this. In diets, I can see people are saying things that are completely wrong. And you'll have doctors even saying things, they have to go with what experts recommend. And you look at the experts and they haven't studied what I've studied. I've studied this stuff in depth. So it's not me to brag. It's me to say, well, no, this isn't what I put on my site, the things that I protect my children to, because I'm coming up with a lifestyle that you can live now, that basically when we say non-communicable disease, what we mean is people's hearts, okay? How do you strengthen your heart? Well, you don't want a surgeon to go in there and give you a new one. You don't want someone else's heart. You want your heart and to make it strong. How do you do that? That's actually things like learning how to run a marathon. And don't run marathons. There's no need to. You shouldn't have to. Yeah, I'm not saying if you do, great, fantastic. I have no interest in running a marathon. I was taught how to train someone to do the Olympic marathon, why and why you would feed them in certain ways and certain titrations and all sorts of technical language and stuff. That's all great. But what I'm more interested in saying, when you run, you put a challenge on your heart muscle, because that's part of all your muscles. There's no major difference between your heart muscle and the rest of it. It just happens to be in the middle. It's got cartilage, it's got normal muscle tissue. It does specifically have a pacemaker. There's always a debate you'll find when you get into these things about whether it's the most important muscle or not. But actually, when I think about it, you see there's a coronary sinus, and that stops the coronary sinus will trigger the electrical impulse that will make the heart contract. And it's got 4 different chambers, ventricles and stuff. I haven't looked at the analysis for a while. They make over it for a long time. But, so if I get it wrong, apologies. But basically, all it is doing is it's important to understand that the whole of your body is involved in you living well all the time. Okay, so the whole of your body must always be involved. And therefore, your calf muscle, you'll hear this a lot when you get into studies like I do, and from gym instructors, any decent one will know that when you walk, your calf muscles are squeezing your veins. So arteries have the power. They're the ones that push things through the body so that your heart will squeeze the muscle. Sorry, yeah, the squeezing of the muscles inside your heart will squeeze blood and push it through. So it's very much, at some point I'll do, I've got a list of videos I want to make, and one of them will be about how your boiler system, so the way you heat your house is very similar to the way your body heats itself, in that you can generate, this is how I use it, when it's cold as it is now, I go for a bit of a gentle run just to generate the heat through my body, and then use the circulatory system, that pumping of your heart around the body, to get that heat around my body. And then my hands, which I think even now are going, because I have Raynaud's, they're going yellow. And that actually means that they're losing blood from this. There, actually, it's probably worth showing, because I get the feeling, because I'm used to, basically now I just keep finding things. I'll try not to swear as well. So I like to understand how my body works. I'm starting to do all sorts of things. I'm improving my eyes. I can do a lot of stuff left-handed now. I can play table tennis and other things left-handed and whatever, just because I enjoy learning how I work. Can I figure out how to, in my mind, have an idea of, is there something I can do? And can I go, is it possible to do it? So I could do everything left-handed. Could I then do it right? So I could do everything right-handed. Can I now do it left-handed? Well, yes. Okay. So, and I found that as long as I just put my mind to it, it will happen. The reason this is all irrelevant, because it's coming back to, how do I hit the health targets? The health targets come from books like I'm talking about there, from research, like there's so much, okay? And what we have now is non-communicable diseases are causing the problems. That's what we die from. That's what we suffer from, people with back pains. There are ways, yeah, I played football. I've only had back pain a couple of times because I know what causes it. And each time it's different, you see. So it depends on where your back pain is caused. So I've naturally listened to people surgeons about backs and stuff like that. I mean, the amount of stuff I've covered. So yeah, I don't get back pain, and people don't realize it when I say, well, no, it is actually possible to fix your own back pain. Why? Understand the back pain. Understand where it's coming from. Yeah, but that's, once you've done the foundational stuff I've done, it becomes easy to understand back pain. It's without it, it's a lot of reading, because you still have to do exactly the same reading I've done. Because all I've done is understand how our body works, how the mind works, how it connects together, how the mind triggers. So your nerves trigger the muscles. The muscles do not trigger the nerves. Things like that. And I'm really noticing in terms of cramps. When I cramp, like, how do you not get a cramp? Physiologically, when I was studying, people didn't know what caused a cramp. Okay, so I'm sitting there thinking maybe they figured it out now, but to me, I figured it out because I could see when I would cramp and when I would not cramp. And one of the key ones is dehydration, but particularly heat. When the muscles got hot, and it's be the nerves that got hot, they will suddenly trigger a spasm that causes, what was I just talking about? A cramp. And the reasons behind it are actually very complicated, so I'm not going to explain them to you now, because even that will probably go over your head. And I'm not trying to patronize. I'm just obsessed. I read stuff like this, and it's this thick. It's like, yeah, I've got loads of books like that. I was starting to build them up because I thought it's easy just to show. Because people ask, oh, why should I trust you? And it's like, you don't trust me. You trust these books. You trust all the research that's gone out there. Because I'm not your doctor. But what I can tell you is your doctor is struggling to understand how to get you to move, because they don't even realize the value of movement. It's things like that. So how you hit all the targets is by going and being a human. Hunting and gathering. Remembering how strong your ancestors were, because of course you go, but I wasn't my ancestor. So the more you say go to museums, for example, because these are normal things we can do. You go and find places in your area, wherever you are. Around Britain, there's so many monuments. There's just going to the sea and thinking people have gone out there in ships, in old ships, and having to climb up the rigging and stuff like that. That's amazing. There's all sorts of things. It doesn't matter where you are and who you are. It's like every place is absolutely incredible when you start to realize what your ancestors did without all the modern tools. That's all I was trying to get at before. We have so much now. I couldn't imagine just going into the fields and surviving, living in the forest through all of this crazy winds and whatever. I couldn't imagine doing that. And in Iran, I know my friends would tell me about, they used to live in caves in there. And that's because the caves don't change their temperature through the years. So when it's freezing, they're still warm, relatively. And when it's really hot, they're still about the same temperature. Yeah, and that's why people used to live in them. And I know the Milton Keynes 2,000 years ago, there were people living on the land around here because there are wonderful little monuments we've got here that are actually from those houses, the foundations of them. You can walk along them. So what I find is that by understanding the world, by getting out in it, I can take my kids there. We play. Kids are the best things at coming up with games. And it's weird if I, as an adult, go do it because adults don't play, so we're boring. But when you've got kids around, you can play with them, and they're perfectly. It's fine. You don't look weird anymore. You don't feel weird. So it's combining all the things about how we're supposed to live, which is much more natural, which is how your ancestors live, with this modern world. Because I love having a car, I love having a roof over my head, I love having central heating. I love this modern world. So it's only natural. This is so new that it means it doesn't put the pressures on us. See how vague I'm being, but hopefully that's clearer. We aren't putting the pressures on ourselves. So when you run around, you're putting pressures throughout your body, and your body, your cells, your individual cells are actually listening to that because you're built that way. It's amazing. The universe has built you, and it's incredible what it does. So it means that your bones will grow because you moved. Your muscles will grow because you moved. You'll get your brain cells, you'll either get new ones or it'll say, don't get rid of them. Because wherever you've recently used a particular cell, your body goes, oh, those cells are needed. And just because of that, it says, well, I won't cull them then. Because all your body is doing every single day, and I mean every single day, it's amazing. But through sleep particularly, it's pruning. You'll find everywhere. You've got pruning of the brain, that's well understood now. You've got pruning of bones. We've known that for decades. It's like standard stuff. You've got pruning of the heart, same thing. All the way through, your body's constantly pruning, but is it adding back? In the same way you'd prune a garden because it's adding back things. That's because it's getting all the pressures, all the natural pressures. You've got to put those on you because we expect them. So we know that we need food, but nobody seems to understand and realize that we need exercise. And it's only recently has that become, it's not even an industry yet. Sports science is not really that big yet. Exercise physiology is really not that big because I just actually listened to some summaries of health. One of those by Dennis Noble and place he chairs because he did the first algorithm of a human heart in the 60s and put that into in code. There's beautiful stuff that I watch these days. They've got digital hearts that they're doing that you can see as 3D. It's absolutely amazing. But their study, so their conversation, their talk for over about an hour or something with experts. No, there was no exercise physiologist in the room, and it was noticeable, and obviously in their virtual room. And what I noticed is that they're not connected to it. You've got people from Oxford, people Cambridge doing great work, and I'm just thinking, this is the kind of thing I want you to understand. No one's talking to each other because you'll have seen this in real life. You'll notice in companies. I see so many companies where you can tell the salespeople are not talking to the engineers. So what I do is I keep my job by making sure that everyone talks to each other. If I do that, every project I'm on wins. It doesn't lose. Why? Because everyone talks to each other. That's all I do. And I'm known for that. That's all I have to do. I don't have to be the best engineer, even though that's technically my role. No, I just go and talk to the engineers who know their stuff. Say, can you give me some examples? All right, I'll put it together. I used what they made because it was good. They're brilliant, better engineers than me. I tie it together and I go to the salespeople and say, is this what you want? Or the people who are the customers, is this what you want? And I just do that. And that's actually all I'm doing in health here. I don't need to be the doctor because the doctors have to follow certain guidelines. So the guidelines are certain things. To hit those, you do what I'm talking about, which is go out and be a human. So don't sit down all day. That's what's killing us, and it's killing us worse and more than cigarettes do. That is what it is as well. 20 years ago, we hadn't established that. Even though we knew that was the case, there's a difference between theory and proof. Even though we had a few studies that had shown this and all that kind of stuff, now it is overwhelming, the evidence. And it is the thing in every Western society. We've got so rich and fat, we are dying because of it, okay? And I mean, this is a long old video I've done here, so hopefully I haven't bored you straight away. I bet if you're still here, thank you. But yeah, I'm going to have a quick look at my notes just to see was there anything major I missed. But it's basically, I haven't necessarily said the health targets, so this hasn't been a focused video, but it's, it's been all over the shop. I've got so much I want to say. I know I need to say it all in one video. But that's why I need your feedback. Tell me what things you're struggling with. So health targets are you need to get people's strong hearts. You need to know how to build strong hearts. Then you won't have heart disease. You need to know how to get a metabolic system, so an energy-based system that works properly. That's what I would say. They give you all sorts of faffing around stuff. We need to learn how to deal with energy properly, because obesity is simply your body storing fat. You aren't obese, you just have more fat than you want. That's something I think I could say to someone. They go, yeah, that's right, actually. I've come to you to help me stop storing fat all the time. I go, exactly, you don't want to store all the fat. Well, I eat more than you and I don't store the fat. Why? Because of the kind of stuff I just told you. Okay, I can explain why. Do you want me to explain it? No. That's what most people have said, because I don't want people to have to explain everything about my car. I want it to work. Yeah, I want the petrol to go through the engine, out the exhaust, in the way it should. It's not come out with black smoke, that kind of stuff. And what I'm saying in terms of health is that, well, actually, in terms of energy, what's happening is that you've got all your energy in the energy source. So just like your petrol being in the car, it's in the tank, but it isn't going through the engine properly. It's not being used. And therefore, it's not coming out the exhaust, which is actually your mouth. Or, you won't be surprised, but yeah, it basically, it doesn't leave your body. It can actually leave you through your skin because of temperature, heat. If it's coming out through heat, again, I'll always introduce things people aren't necessarily looking at the moment, because I've looked much wider, and I noticed some people are starting to realize that if you live in your house a lower temperature, you will then spend more time heating it. That's because you have bats inside you. Bats, yes, brown adipose tissue. Fat tissue that has mitochondria inside it, which means it can burn as energy, okay? Which explains exactly why basically we used to live outside without these heaters, so we need to heat ourselves. If you look at history and how we colonized places, and we were colonized ourselves, what you'll find is many people who are out weren't even wearing many clothes, even on days like when it's 10 degrees, well, I'm in centigrade, so basically when there's almost snow on the ground, yeah? People weren't necessarily having lots and lots of clothes on. Why? Because they could heat themselves, because their fat tissue was directly connected to the energy pathways that are in mitochondria, which is citric acid cycle and the electron transport chain. So yeah, if people question whether I know my stuff, that's totally fine. I'm just doing what I can not to overwhelm you with all this kind of information. So you need strong hearts, you need strong metabolic system, particularly mitochondria, but you need to be able to get cells to allow the energy inside and outside of the cell, because it's got there's all sorts I could teach you about how energy flows through your body. But it's very obvious when you think about it that when you're obese, that's because energy is not flowing from the fat cells anywhere else. It's being stored there and not coming out. Well, we're built for this. Our body thinks we're fattening up for winter. No, but that's because, well, we sit down all the time. There's no demand for the energy. Sitting down is one of the least energy intensive things you can do. Sleeping is the only thing that's less energy intensive. Yet when you're sleeping, you're not eating. If you're like me, when you sit down in a house and there's nothing to do, well, I eat. Okay, so basically, you have the fire down low, and you keep putting coals on. Well, what's going to happen? The coals are going to go up. But of course, if you don't really like that thing, you're just going to keep putting. It doesn't matter which energy source you use, whether it's petrol, coal, or any of these other things. If you keep on putting fuel on it, but don't ever turn on the furnace or always have a tiny thing, you won't get through your stores. You can think of it anyway, and you can ask me to clarify on that. I need people actually asking me questions that are interesting to them. Then I can go on to those. I'll slowly figure out how to get noticed on YouTube and do these things. But basically, I know how to be really healthy by playing with my kids and going, as you'll see on the videos I'm doing, going to all the fun places we want to do and a big tick list of stuff and going out and doing that. That's my health plan, is go and spend more time with my kids and really get to know them. And last night we just watched a pantomime with my little one and we had a right giggle. And she loved it, and we had so much fun, because I'll take them out and we'll go, and now there's snow on the floor, or the walnut's about to be, well, then we've got an excuse to go out and skid and just be kids. I want to enjoy their childhood, because that's my second childhood. I want to enjoy life. So all this, I'm going into detail about what I am planning. I have so many things to plan. I just was annoyingly thorough. I needed to know that I was right in what I'm saying, and I've really confirmed absolutely. But I need to say it in a way where you realise I'm not your doctor. I'm not responsible for your health. This is knowledge. I will not teach you how to do it. That's for coaches. That's for people with insurance and specifically to take you through it. So when I worked in a gym, yeah, I was insured to do that. But I got bored because no one was asking me any useful questions. Were just basically saying, can I run this fast on this machine? We were selling machines. It's a sales machine. Yeah. That's what you'll find right now with everyone going, oh, this is your route to health. It's not. All the people saying that cannot answer the questions I just kind of gave you detail to. You know, I could tell you things about how the seals actually what they're doing and how they can survive out in that temperature. You should be able to. This is biology. You know, it's basic biology. But you'll find a lot of people don't even understand basic biology. They couldn't tell you what plasma membrane is, you know, the lipid bilayer and things like this. Yeah, you know, if you're going to tell people about basics about how they work, you should understand basics about that and the difference between when you have trees that don't move and why they don't move, because they have cellulose in their fibre. They have an extracellular wall, and that's the fibre that goes through you. Doctors don't even know that. Nutritionists don't even seem to know that. The reason that fibre is good for you is because it has the extracellular wall, which is a different type of sugar that humans can't digest. And so we eat it, and that's why you don't get fibres inside, or fibre inside animals, because animals can move. These things are basics. But I've noticed no one seems to put all that together, because no one's noticed and read the studies about cancer and about bowel cancer and noticed that actually the speed of going through your gut is fundamentally important, and the cleaning of the gut is important. The fibre helps clean out the gut, but also make sure that the nutrients of the gut, when they're digested, they go through at a certain speed. If you have too much fibre, it will go too slowly. So figuring out how to make sure it goes through at the right time is about getting the diet the right way, but also moving, because you must move to help your body through your gut. That's another reason you move. There's all these things that when I was at uni and we were measuring calories and all this kind of stuff, I noticed there's so much to all that's happening you're not even measuring. There's things you wouldn't even have thought about. I have, and I bet people have, but they weren't funded in it. They weren't given the funding, or they won't be published. There's a lot in science you don't think about, or people, if you're a scientist or you say that, you'll start to notice that, well, people don't think that your stuff's any good if you can't get published. Well, what if your stuff's really good, but they don't agree with what you're saying? Then you can't get published. Doesn't make your research bad. There's a lot of that going on. And then what if you can't get the funding in the first place? Okay, so I'll only fund what it wants to fund. So you get a lot of biases. That's dogma. So there's a lot that I see all the time, consistently throughout all this sciencey stuff. It is getting better, but medicine has a history of decades and centuries and even millennia of getting it completely wrong. That's Galen, that's, I forget all the names, but you'll find specifically there are people like John Snow when it came to cholera. He specifically showed that bacteria are causing an illness through water. Before that, he was the first to show that. That's one person. And I'm just doing this when it comes to exercise. I'm showing specifically that if you exercise, and as I show in the nutrition in this other video, you need a regulatory process. There's a whole 3 things you need to do to heal properly. And until you base it in the base anything you say, until you focus on its 3 parts of healing, then you won't really heal. Because you can do the nutrition and put the supply through of nutrition, and you can create the demand of exercise, but it's still not enough. You have to have a regulatory process. And I've suffered from no one explaining that to me. I had to figure it out for myself and go, oh yeah, until I slept properly, I was doing the nutrition right and the exercise right, but I was still getting certain injuries. But the second that I went and got the regulation in place, which for me was sleeping, oh my word, it fixed itself like that. So I use these 3 principles, and I have for decades, and it's never let me down. So I'm going to end that now because it is the longest one I've ever done. And I bet people are only going for 1 minute because no one really cares about the depth of this stuff. Yes, I'm frustrated. Okay, but comments, please. You know, I can improve this stuff. I know I can. But even listening to this would be a pain, so I'll probably just publish it because it's like, I keep looking through my videos now and I'm not upset with them. I am giving an example. I'll just keep doing more. But this means I can go and relax and play with my kids more, because that's all I'm doing. That is the answer to it all. Go and play and have fun with the people you love, doing things that are active, that help you sleep at night, because if you don't run around and move, then you struggle to sleep. there are all sorts of things that help you, that stop you sleeping. So it's look at the whole of who you are. And all I'm trying to do is teach people. This is how you work as a human being. Yeah, that's because you're on a laptop. Sorry about that. I'm jiggling around. Yeah, you work a certain standard way and have for millions of years, as in your ancestors work just like you do. Okay, it hasn't really changed. So health hasn't changed and won't change. So adapt to the world that we live in right now. It's a lot easier than you think. My entire vision was that. So getting back to this, how do I hit all the health targets? Okay, I understand the health targets. I understand why they're there. I learned that, and then I go out and do the things that are necessary. So I show you that on my channel. Go and move and play with your kids. Learn how to sleep well. Okay, that's fundamental. Put that as one of your main things. There are lots of things that will teach you about it. I can teach you that if you ask me questions about it. I can show you because I went through it. But I did it in the modern life. I've worked all sorts of different shifts, and I'm remembering now how many different shift patterns I've worked. And they taught me about sleep. And it wasn't just reading, say, Gross. I've got the book there. It's if you did study psychology, I was in the era where we used Gross. In there, it tells you about sleep. But one of the best things is actually the airlines. They know all about sleep. And this is where you'll find all the stuff about health is research across different industries and disciplines. It's not all in one place. So I am trying to put it all in one place. So because I resented having to look everywhere, different places, and also I can get paid to do this. This is what I wanted to do for a career, but I couldn't get it done, which is how, just basically show how humans, if they live right, won't need a doctor until you do your checkups every year, and the doctor is assessing you for health. But they'd always kick me out of if I ever went in, they'd say, you're not ill enough. We've got other people far more ill than you. There's nothing wrong with you. That's what they'd say. Because I just don't have any aches and pains. And if I do get aches and pains, I know how to fix them. That's the point, so they don't keep coming back. And so I've got no reason to go to the doctor. That's the point. Okay. So I don't go to the doctor because other people are in pain and really need help, whereas I have no symptoms of any problems at all. That's what I'm saying to you. So go and check with your doctor. Go and make sure you're clear on that. But I understand what doctors are checking for. I used to take other people's blood pressure, so I can happily take mine. I can show you how to take your pulse right now. I can do it all the time. There are lots of things I can teach you, but I need people to ask me. Because if you're asking, that means you want to know, and that's fine. Let's have a conversation. Okay? So thank you for listening. I do go on, but hopefully that wasn't boring as heck, because I can bore the heck out of people because I'm too interested in this. And they aren't. So hopefully I'm attracting the people that are actually interested. If you got this far, you're interested. But yeah, it's really, really, really easy to be healthy, and it's really fun to do it the right way. That's the point here. Okay, so I will see you in the next one. I'll put that link about supply and demand and healing. Setting healing as the root for everything you do. And yeah, have a great day. Go out and tell me all the fun you're having and how you're translating the kind of things I say in your own practice, because you're going to have your own practice. What makes it work for you? Because that's just fun. That's always great. And we can talk about what makes it fun and help teach other people who are struggling maybe with what works for us and why it works, because it's a nice conversation. Okay. I've listened to you guys, and let's hope this recorded well.